Hi, this is Ethan Jewett from Mindset, and I want to just spend a few minutes walking you through a SAP Aware AI Assistant demo that we've put together. And we think it kind of shows a little bit of what's possible with some of these types of systems. So just as we get started, I'd just like to talk about a couple of different types of AI and AI integration that we can have in our applications. And I think this is really important because when we're solutioning for a problem, a business problem, sometimes AI is the right answer and sometimes it's not. Sometimes there are better options. And then the way that we use AI in the solution, if it is the right answer, is really important as well. So I'd like to just go through a couple of those. I break things down into three different areas. So generation, which is what we've seen like at SAP Sapphire with success factors and the ability to develop role descriptions within recruiting software, job descriptions within recruiting software. We also see generation a lot in terms of essays, like creating essays and that kind of thing, and code, right? So we use generation for code where we say something like, I need a function that will find the first 100 prime numbers, or something more useful, and ChatGPT or another LLM will generate that function. Then we have chatbots and question and answer. We see this with ChatGPT, which a lot of us have used, Bing, which a lot of us have used. We see this all the time with sort of old school chatbots, phone support bots, that kind of thing. We saw it with SAP Copilot, and it looks like we're kind of seeing it with SAP Joule as well, chatbots that answer questions. And then lastly, we've got the concept of sort of inline contextual AI that's looking at what you're doing and making suggestions or giving you information that it thinks is relevant to what you're doing. And this is really one of the most powerful options, and also I think least prone to problematic types of interactions, because we don't have an ability for the user to sort of interact directly with it as easily. That's not the mode. And therefore, the user can't as easily or won't as easily be led to lead it off in the wrong direction. So I think many of us have heard about the Bing chatbot and its Sydney persona. If you talk to it long enough, it develops a whole other personality, which is very adversarial and has some weird quirks. We don't want our business applications to work like that necessarily. I think there's a great opportunity and market for these types of bots that interact with people, but probably our business applications, we want them to be a little bit more predictable and helpful. So inline contextual is what we're going to be looking at today primarily. The way that this thing works is that it is a very simple SAP Cloud Application Programming Model application. It's got a very simple UI on top of it. It's really just intended to show a little bit of the art of the possible. What can we do with these types of things? How can we expect them to behave? We put it together at Mindset to get a feeling for how these things actually work. And I think seeing it will maybe give you a little bit of a feeling for it as well. But the thing to keep in mind here is that we're deploying LLM in this demo in a very specific use case. We're only using it to extract context from an ongoing conversation that it is observing. So we have a CAPM application that observes both sides of this conversation. If it was an actual sort of customer service representative application that was providing helpful information to customer service representatives, it would be plugged into a telephony system, and it would be listening into the conversation, or it would be plugged into a chat system and it would be watching the conversation. But here we're just going to construct the conversation as a demo. I'll do both sides of the conversation, and the conversation will be given to the context module of this application, which will use ChatGPT to extract some context from the conversation. Are we talking about a particular customer? Are we talking about a business? Are we interested in invoices? Which invoice are we interested in? Are we talking about delivery, sales orders, that kind of thing? Based on that context, we will hand off to a query module where we have a set of queries that we've sort of predefined that we want to send to the S4HANA system, and this will be real live S4HANA data from an S4HANA 2022 system. And we'll send off that query to get the relevant context information back and provide it back to the user in the front-end application. So you'll see all that happen. Down the road, if we wanted to really deploy this in a more flexible way, we would need to use we would need to provide more sort of different topics and different types of entities that it can extract, and it's really good at that, at adding more. That's really, really easy to do. We're using something called ChatGPT functions for this, but you can do similar things with other LLMs as well. What functions do with ChatGPT is they constrain the output to a known JSON schema. So we know what we're going to get back. It's going to be JSON, and we're going to be able to use the output of that to figure out our context and do the query. So using that function, we're able to get a sort of predefined set of outputs, and we're able to give it some guardrails to work within. Breaking these things down into very sort of well-defined functions and well-defined tasks that we're going to ask an LLM to do is really important because it keeps the LLM on task. It really cuts down on hallucination. It lets us use the cheaper versions of the LLMs with fewer parameters. So for this, we're using ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo. If we're going to do something much more complex and pack a lot more instructions into the prompt and that kind of thing, we have to use GPT-4, much more expensive, and really makes it that expense can actually make it kind of unworkable for a lot of business problems. So breaking things down is important. If we wanted to make this a lot more flexible, we would use an even more involved architecture that breaks things down even further and uses GPT models for different, uses GPT or OpenAI or other models for different aspects of this application. So, for example, what we're going to show you today is using just the built-in browser-based speech-to-text. It's not great, you'll see it working, but it's okay. But if we wanted this to be awesome and really wanted to work well in a deployed situation, we would probably use the Whisper model to do speech-to-text. We would do telephony integration. I still can't pronounce that word. We would have the context module, yes, that's super important to set the context, but we would also have, we would also build the ability to dynamically select the service that we will call to satisfy that context query from a predefined menu of services that we know are available in our system. So we would build a service selection module, and we would use GPT by feeding it a list of services and descriptions of those services and the user's question and context, and we would ask GPT to select the service that it thinks should be used. And then we would build a query module that would use either GPT-4 or GPT 3.5 is pretty iffy for generating queries, but a fine-tuned version of GPT 3.5 would work well for generating the actual OData query for the selected service based on the service metadata document to answer the question that we're trying to get answered, given the context we're trying to provide. So you can build these out and make them really, really flexible and make them really dynamic. And every additional little piece of flexibility you add makes it so that it's slightly more likely to fail. But in these context-based approaches, failure is actually okay because failure means no response. It's not giving you something that's false or something that's misleading or even something that's even distracting. It just won't do anything. And so we sort of just have an upside-only situation here. So with that, let's jump into the demo, and I'll show you how this thing works. Hopefully, I'm still logged into everything, but we've got this deployed in a Fiori Launchpad on BTP in a WorkZone standard edition site, and this is where we put a bunch of our demos at Mindset. We'll be doing the customer service AI assistant demo today, and we'll load that up, and we'll get started. So, like I said, I'm going to do both sides of this conversation. It'll probably break at some point and not work right, so that'll be some good comedy for you, and we'll see how it goes. So let's get started. Hi, I'm Ethan from SkyMart. Hi Ethan, what can I do for you today? So you can see that the system recognized that I said I'm Ethan from SkyMart. It recognized SkyMart as a company. We're going to go do a query for a business partner and pull back some business partner data to show to the customer service representative. Now, of course, in a normal CSR system, like we'd already be locked into the customer because they would have entered their phone number or customer number or something like that in a phone menu, but just to kind of show you what's possible here. So the customer is going to ask now what they want. I'd like to know about my current invoices. So the system recognizes current invoices. It's going to do a query to go grab the last 5 invoices from that customer. And I, the customer service representative, without doing anything, can now say, great, I can see your 5 most recent invoices from February, May, and June. Which one would you like to know about? I'm interested in the invoice with amount 17,160. So now the system's going to recognize the invoice that the customer asked for, and it's going to put it up on the screen for the customer service representative. And now, if I'm a customer service representative, a couple of really important things here. So first of all, I can say sort of small talk stuff. And one of the actual, I don't know if you noticed back in the function, but one of the topics that this LLM recognizes is small talk, because we got some really good feedback from some customers, and what they said is, a lot of customer service representatives, they want to do small talk. They don't want the system to be messing around with their small talk. It's an important part of interacting with the customer. So we just added a topic, small talk, and had it recognize small talk and just not do anything if there's small talk going on. So you can ask about the customer's kids or whatever, what's going on in their life, weather, and the system will ignore you. Then when the customer asks for a specific invoice with a specific amount, the system can go ahead and pull that up. And now if I'm the CSR, I've been doing a bunch of work at this company, I know that this is an invoice for C900 bikes and that there are 39 of them, and I can tell the customer that, but I could also just click on this and pull up the actual billing document in the S4HANA system, in the Fiori Launchpad, and go and look at what's going on with this particular invoice. It's always slow when it's doing a demo, but I can go look at it pretty easily and go back and tell the customer, sure, that one's for 39 C900 bikes. And the customer is going to say, no, that's not the one. How about the invoice with amount 45,120? Now you can see this is where it goes wrong. It didn't get 45,120 because we're not using the Whisper model. So it shoots off an incorrect query and tries again. But I, the CSR, can just click on the one that I want, open it up, and tell the customer what's going on with this particular billing document. Our S4 system's slow today, or maybe it's the screen recording that's making it slow. But I can tell the customer, this is for 376 Y200 bikes. Now I can close those back out, go back to my customer, and the customer's going to ask, I should probably actually have that open. Great, what's the delivery status? And being the CSR, I've got it open in the background, loading slowly, and I can go down and I can see the delivery status. So I can see that it was shipped on the 29th of May. I can tell the customer that. Looks like it was shipped on May 29th, so you should have it. Okay, I'll look into that. Can you tell me about my other account with you with Big Mart Company? Big Mart Company, sure, let me look that up. And as you can see also, it's getting it wrong. Can you tell me about my other account with you with Big Mart Company? So you've got to just kind of enunciate with this system. Sure, I've got it here now. Do you want to look at recent invoices? Yes, tell me about the one with amount 34,580, please. And we're ready to go with that invoice. So you can see how this would work for like sales orders, materials, all that kind of stuff. We can get contextual information out of the actual chat going on, and we can put it up if it seems relevant. So in an actual application, like you could think about having this be an optional pane that the CSR could have in the CRM Web UI or in Cloud for Customer. But you can also think of a bunch of other different sort of applications for this type of contextual AI engine. You could have a You can have it reading the Fiori application you're looking at in the Fiori Launchpad, for example, and parsing out some information there. You could have it in, you can build, we've looked into building, and it certainly is possible to build a Microsoft Teams plugin that is a Microsoft Teams plugin for meetings and calls, where you actually have access to the raw audio feed from the meeting or the call, and can be watching this kind of thing going on as the call is happening, and can have a tab in the meeting or a bot in the meeting chat that's providing information as it's relevant. So these kinds of things can be super useful. You can think of all kinds of different things you might be able to use this for. So I hope you've enjoyed the demo today and a little bit of discussion, and we'll talk to you again soon.